On this Saturday, the 6th of May, the coronation of His Majesty King Charles III will take place in London, and as such it's likely that the capital will be in a state of barely contained chaos. So much so that a few days before the coronation itself has taken place, already the crazies have started to emerge. Yesterday evening, the police arrested a man outside Buckingham Palace, and he was detained under the Mental Health Act, not under any terrorism charges, for good reason. And details are vague. He may or may not have had a knife, but the police had to carry out a controlled explosion. So serious stuff. Well, not really. It transpires the guy's a fucking lunatic. He was arrested for throwing shotgun cartridges at Buck House. But I'm not a gunsmith or a ballistics expert. I don't have that much experience with firearms, but I'm fairly fucking certain shotgun cartridges work best when used in conjunction with a shotgun. Yes, there's the chance that if he'd thrown one at the right angle, the percussion cap could have been triggered and the cartridge would have discharged, but for the most part, this is a guy throwing around relatively small amounts of lead. He would have done more damage if he turned up with a hod and started lobbing fucking bricks at people. Not only that, the royal standard wasn't flying, which shows that the King and Queen weren't at home. The Met's counter-terrorism officers have warned the public to expect more of this type of behaviour in the run-up to and even during the King's coronation. But as of today, there's new legislation which angry people with blue hair and poor personal hygiene are calling draconian, but which I will refer to as the anti-dickhead laws. Broadly speaking, the anti-dickhead laws give the police greater powers to break up disruptive protests. They also allow the old bill greater powers to arrest violent protesters, and the courts get greater powers to prosecute said violent protesters. And I know many people are outraged and say it's a police state, but is it just me? Or over the last few years have most disruptive protests been aimed at disrupting the average man or woman getting to and from work? Which would suggest that said protesters don't have jobs to go to themselves, otherwise they wouldn't be able to take part in said protest. So these protesters are mostly dole-dossers. I can't go on protest Monday to Friday because I've got a fucking job. Of course, I'm being sarcastic. Not all protesters are unemployed dole-dossers. Many of them are public sector workers who get paid whether they turn up for work or not. And I will add the caveat that, in my experience, many public sector workers wouldn't last 5 fucking minutes in the private sector. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm glad that the NHS workers have been awarded a 5% pay rise. They deserve that and more. But what I like about the anti-dickhead laws is they allow the police to go after the hypocrites. Why do I say hypocrites? Well, have you noticed how in recent years so many protest groups, they turn up to protest about an issue, and in doing so cause the very problem they're protesting against? Take Extinction Rebellion. Now, I agree with them, more should be done to halt global warming or climate change, but their methodology involves shutting off major roadways to cities, paralysing entire road networks. So in order to protest climate change, they end up with thousands of vehicles pumping CO2 into the sky for no reason whatsoever, and thus warming up the fucking planet. They also disrupt air and rail travel. Now, if I had to commute by rail to work every day, I wouldn't be interested in the opinions of a person who's causing me to get my pay docked by 2 hours every fucking morning because he's decided to glue himself to a Virgin Pendolino. Another organisation which will fall foul of the new laws is a well-meaning group run by half-wits, Insulate Britain. What they want is for every home in the UK to be properly insulated, to make those homes more energy efficient and thus better for the environment. And again, I agree with that, but their caveat is they don't want to pay for it. They want the British government, ergo the British taxpayer, to pick up the bill. Now, I know there are some landlords who are truly fucking evil. They rent out houses which are basically squalor, and they don't give a shit about the house or the tenants. But where I live in Disgruntled Towers, that property has an insulated loft and insulated walls. It also has energy efficient double glazing and smart central heating. And the reason all of those features are on my home is because me and the wife fucking paid for it. Please make my house more energy efficient. Please lower my bills, but don't ask me to do it. I'm too busy blockading the M25, pissing off people trying to get to work. Another group who'll be in the firing line are Just Stop Oil. Isn't that the most simplistic name ever? Just Stop Oil. Petrol, diesel, kerosene, paraffin, perspex, plastic, the little things on the end of your shoelaces. Just stop it. What are we meant to do though? Because I guess they want us to all drive electric cars. Do they not know how many oil-based products go into those? Or when we buy an electric car in the future, are we meant to whittle a dashboard out of fucking wood? Anyway, their latest publicity stunt involves a protester invading the World Snooker Championships, and if you're from outside the UK, I don't expect you to know what snooker is. It's not a very fast-paced or exciting sport. Anyway, the protester jumped onto the snooker table and threw a bag of orange dye on it. Now, what snooker has to do with climate change, I don't know. But I'm also fairly certain that no one, the thousands of people watching that on their televisions, thought, well, my afternoon's been ruined now, but fuck it, let's go buy a Tesla. However, if I were a cynic, which I am, I think the timing of these new laws is rather interesting. They were due to be introduced in July, but they've been moved to just before the Coronation. And there's another protest group, an anti-monarchist protest group called Republic, and they are saying the decision to change the date of the introduction of these laws is a form of intimidation by the state. And fuck, I hope they're right. Because whether you like the royal family or not, they bring this country a lot of money. And there hasn't been a coronation in my lifetime. There hasn't been one in my parents' lifetime. So please, let us enjoy this coronation, you attention-seeking communists. Republic have said they were intending to hold a peaceful protest. And I think that's part of the issue. Because in recent years, we've seen that when protest groups say we're going to hold a peaceful protest, what they mean is our members will turn up en masse, and within 5 minutes we'll be hurling rocks at the police, looting the shops and setting fire to the hospitals. As ever, thanks for watching.